Well, hi. Thank you for checking in here on the BDR lunch gathering videos. We're glad you're here. We want to let you know that we have quite a few of these videos. In fact, if you go to the BDR site and check out our page, you'll find that here under news and lunch gathering, you'll find not only the fact that these educational web seminars are free, there is no cost whatsoever, but you'll find out what's coming up and a complete listing of all the different ones we've had in the recent past and over the past 2 years and a half. All these are good sources of information that I think you'll enjoy. So we invite you to check in, visit with us, and let us know how you appreciate them. There is a little button in the bottom here. It says subscribe. If you click on that to the little bell, you'll get a weekly reminder when new posts are made. And we, again, thank you for being part of our family. I'm happy to say that our friend Jeff Welton is back with us today. And Jeff represents not just Nautel, but he represents a generation of broadcasters that have worked at different parts in the industry. He was the technical support guy almost as long as you've been a salesman now.
Just about exactly, yeah.
And I remember back in the day, of course, we dealt with several people. Mr. Lonigan was one of them, and Jeff was another. That if we had an AMFET or we had one of the earlier transmitters in the line, we knew we could get on the horn, and these guys just knew the stuff flat. And I'm just really proud and happy to say that Jeff has been a friend all these years, and we often meet up at NAB and do silly things together. Jeff is currently been dragooned into, among the many other things that he does, Tuesday Transmitter Talk or something like that on his own podcast. And I want to make sure that we mentioned that. What's the next topic, Jeff?
The 13th, the topic is transmitter sites. It's basically a war stories episode. As we get up closer to Christmas, I tend to wind down a little bit and get a little more relaxed. It's not like I'm all that uptight at the worst of times, but we're just going to talk about some, things that could have been done better, or a lot better, and the things that we can do to try to not do them like that.
I think we're planning the same thing the last week of the month, sort of just gather and have war stories. Let anybody get in front of the fireplace if they want and talk about these things. Next week, Bob Tarcio is going to be with us, by the way. And cool. Bob's going to talk about switcher controllers and things like that, broadcast devices. Jeff, I'm going to start off because we want to talk about what happened this year and what is going to happen next year. One of the big things that happened, of course, is the supply chain problem. And at one point you told me you guys were backed up 50 odd weeks just to get components, which has been eased a lot now, hasn't it?
No.
Oh.
No, I'd like to say it has now. So the component lead times are running from a year to a year and a half, almost across the board. And it's not just components, it's raw materials. Aluminum, I mean, the aluminum we buy from local suppliers here in Canada and down in the US from our Bangor facility. And the waiting time on that stuff, we're buying a lot more than we need in order to make sure that we've got it. So, and I know that the folks at Gates Air are doing the same thing because we have this discussion with them on a regular basis too. I mean, it's just nature of the industry now. If you want to get something out the door, you're going to buy a lot more than you have to. Downside is we're all paying asset tax or inventory tax, depending on where you are and what you call it. So we all get taxed on all this extra stuff, which raises operating costs. So, I mean, that's our burden to bear. So it is what it is. But
of course, it's now because of planning. Now you're close to where the VX are going to be available.
Yep. Well, and so knowing that this was, and it hasn't just been this year. Supply chain's been a problem since everybody got downsized in COVID, back to 2020.
Mhm.
And they were all saying, yeah, by late 2022, it'll be starting to get better. Well, I'm not sure we can get a whole lot later in 2022, and it's not getting better. I do expect it to ease off a little bit by late next year, but I'm ballparking 24 at least before we start seeing returns to near normal. And what will happen is that you're going to see some of there's a couple of options, and we've seen a change. Everybody has heard about Ticketmaster and what's been going on there recently. Well, we're seeing the same thing with
You're going to sell transmitters on Ticketmaster?
no.
Oh,
But what's happening is that the manufacturers, all their parts are being bought up by brokers who are marking the part price up 10 times and then reselling them. So it's getting to where if you want to buy a part, you're going through a broker and you're going to pay an arm and a leg more. So a 10-cent resistor is now $1, and of course we mark that stuff up to resell it. So that's going to that's going to be an impact across the board. And it's getting to be more pervasive over the past few months. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff like that. I mean, it's interesting times. Let's put it that way.
yeah,
But
I would agree. I would agree.
so the VX, getting back to that real quick, the cool thing about that, because we knew it was coming, and we had the physical design finalized for quite a while on the low power, 2 kilowatts and less. So we were able to stock up. So we had the parts in house already to build the first 250 before we even released the product to production. And
Dare I ask
actually,
how many you've sold?
most of them. So
Okay.
at this point, the backlog is, I think, 175 out of those 250 are already spoken for. So,
On
yeah.
parts, what's going on with AKM?
So
Can you get
AKM,
them?
oh yeah, no, well, I'll quantify that also. And this is the other thing. So AKM was down for about 11 months to a year, roughly. And of course, when they came back online, they had a huge backlog built up because, well, when you're providing 90% of the ADC chips in the world, that happens. And so they're dealing with them on a priority basis, and they're not doing it first come, first serve. They're doing it, GM wants 100,000, Nautel wants 1,000. Guess who we're going to satisfy first? So yeah, that now, fortunately for us, we don't use any AKM parts. Some of our competitors do, and I know they've got pretty good stockpiles built up. So, hopefully they'll be able to ride it out. But yeah, this is the kind of situation we see. With us, it was power supplies a couple of months ago. So yeah, it's like I said, it's not going to go away anytime soon. Some of the parts that we couldn't get, we can get. Some of the parts we could get, we can't get. So it'll keep on varying for quite a while. I know talking to one of our competitors over a single malto not too long ago, they indicated that they're having to go to the black market for some stuff. And that's a challenge. It means that, and we've looked at that situation. We've avoided it so far by pushing deliveries out. And the reason we do that is because the problem with black market is you don't know for sure whether you're getting a counterfeit or not till that lot of 100 or whatever lands in and you go mil spec them all. So yeah, it's like I say, we all deal with it differently, but it is certainly a challenge that we are all dealing with. I saw Tony Peterly from WorldCast did a post the other day about how they're engineering around obsolete parts, and that's certainly something that we do as well. So yep.
Years ago, when there were shortages, especially dynamic memory chips, that people would double and triple order and then cancel the orders when they came in. So it looked like there was all this demand, and then it suddenly disappeared. And
yep,
older fabs and
they did the same with airline travel. People would book flights on 3 or 4 airlines at a time, and that, of course, would end up. So the VX is a success for the year.
Well, so far now we haven't shipped the first production one yet. The beta test is still ongoing, and I mean I've got a beta unit for my station, so I've got some.
The reaction's been pretty positive.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, after having run one for a couple of weeks, I like the way it sounds. I like the way it works. I like not having Flash or an app to access it. So,
Uh-oh, you
well,
mentioned the
no,
word.
that's the other cool thing. The fact that this is actually starting to become an actual thing after, oh my God, how many years?
Yeah.
So,
And that's the other one I got to ask you about, and you're gonna grin and say, well, we got to talk to Matt. AUI.
oh, look, I told Matt today, I sent him an email and I said, so if somebody was standing beside you with a gun pointed at your head and said, give me a date for AUI, what date would you give them? And he goes, is the gun loaded? Um, Actually, I think he asked what caliber it was. So, but no, absolutely. That has been, without a doubt, our biggest bugaboo for the past several years. And
Big Four.
with the VS, and I've said
Trying to
this
play Minecraft, Dad?
ad nauseum, but
No.
with the VS, the
Alright.
challenge we've been having is that you've got 15-year-old product or a 15-year-old design with 4 iterations of hardware, three iterations of firmware. So you got to make a new piece of software that'll work with all of that.
Oh,
And
it's
I
it's
mean,
horrid. It's horrid.
oh, try to load Windows 11 on a 386. I'm betting it won't work. And I mean, I'm obviously exaggerating, but the concept's the same.
No, I
Um,
could probably. I won't say I want to top that, but I've been fighting for the last 3 months now since Google played games with email and the DKIM and the DMARC stuff.
mhm,
Turns out that on the BDR.net on our server, the Blue Onyx GUI will not accept an underscore.
mhm.
So we've been trying to get this DKIM into it for months. Can't do it. Finally, oh goodness, last week somebody sent me an email and said, well, it's in this include file in under var named shoot var named da 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 da.
Right.
Well, we found the file, but we still can't enter it and make it hit DNS. And if you or anybody else knows how to do this, please help us out. Help.
Actually, that might be a question for Matt because although he doesn't publicize it, his background is as a code writer. So he goes all the way back to the Unix days. He worked with Borland for a while.
Maybe we
But
can send him an email while we're talking here and see if he'll respond.
Yeah.
There
So
I
is,
Jeff,
thought, yeah,
what's
Bill,
it's all Linux inside, right? So
yeah.
all you have to do is publish the spec, and you'll have like 100 people rewriting the AUI.
And the challenge with that is you lose control. And we have considered that. But the problem then is how do you support something when you didn't design it?
There you go. There you
So,
go.
yeah.
But did you guys roll your own? You can't have rolled your own Linux, right? So there must
No.
be already packages out there to move off of Flash.
There's too many of them, and they all conflict with one another.
I'll give you an example. So my teenager has got a laptop, which is what I built him for doing his school stuff, and it's an old one that his mother said wouldn't work with Windows anymore. So I took it and blew it out and put I think I put an Ubuntu distro on it to begin with. And that was great, but it's an older laptop, and after a few upgrades, it's just gotten so sluggish. So I took it last night and ripped it out and put Zorin on it, and Zorin Lite is just flying on this laptop. But again, it's a 10-year-old laptop. So that's part of the challenge. Now, the other thing about the VX, where it's a little different, is that instead of evolving something we already had, we started ground up with this one. And the advantage is we got a lot more horsepower, so it's been a lot better for the new user interface. But getting the VS to work with that is going to be the challenge.
Well, that's good. I'll ask you one question forward looking, looking into 2023.
Right.
And then we'll open it up for any other questions that people would like to ask about Nautel transmitters jumping up and down and
So
whatever.
you didn't warn me this was going to be put the Jeff on the hot seat episode.
Oh, one of us, or we'll turn to make David Bialik answer the question.
I will have fun. That's all right. Go ahead.
Coming up in 35 weeks or less than that, NAB 2023. Do
Right.
you already have the floor pass code?
I don't think so. I mean, we just released the NUG registrations
Yes,
a week ago, last week, I think.
right.
So I expect to see that happen. Usually we don't put the floor pass up until late January or so.
Well, I thought maybe if you had it, you'd give a,
Oh, if I had it, I
friendly
absolutely would.
jump start to our friends here.
Let's see, let's put it this way. I don't have it now, but ask me again the January meeting.
Okay.
So if the supply chain continues in this shape,
Mhm.
the only people that'll be at NAB will be the attendees and none of the vendors because they won't have anything to sell.
It's an interesting challenge. Let's put it that way. Oh, just hang on a sec. No, that's the NUG registration. There is the booth registration. We do not have the exhibits registration up on the website yet. But certainly, Barry, ask me next month. As far as stuff to sell, I mean, we can still sell it, just understand that it is going to be, and did we talk about this last month? I think we may have, or it could have been, I've done probably 15 webinars in the past month, but, or presentations on different things. One of the things I tell people is that more and more, you can't just wait till 3 weeks before the CP expires to start ordering stuff. You know, I mean, the best thing to do is when you start budgeting something, reach out to your manufacturer of choice, and I don't care whether it's us or any one of the others, but reach out to them and ask them what their delivery is for whatever you're looking at. And then plan backwards, back time the thing. So that's what we're at. I mean, like right now, I can tell you flat out, and I don't try to hide behind it, we're about 20 weeks across the board. Doesn't matter what you're ordering, I'm going to tell you about 20 weeks. Depending, some models might be a little less, some might be a little more, but in that range.
Jeff's only speaking for transmitter manufacturers, but I can tell you that from being another manufacturer on this call that everybody's in that same boat. If you have
Yep.
projects, don't wait till 3 weeks to order your stuff because you could be 20 weeks before you see it.
Yep. And I mean, in some cases, and I mean, not to pick on any names, but I know there's a control surface company that is anywhere between 6 months and a year. Some of the audio stuff, again, in the same time frame. Transmitters, depending, different manufacturers. If you've got a low power requirement, I know the other day Acresso was saying that they can still do 5 to 6 weeks. We're 20 weeks. High power, low power, we're the same across the board, so that's good. Some of the higher power stuff, again, 6 to 8 months. So yeah, very much reach out early in the process. Make it part of the plan.
And wasn't part of BW's demise due to component availability?
No, in fairness, BW's demise was because
Owner availability.
Well, Scott and Roger didn't have a succession plan, and that in any privately owned company is a huge problem.
Yeah.
It's something that really needs to be. I mean, like us, for example, we're privately owned. We got one owner, and Kevin has a succession plan in place. So if he happens to be on the way back from our France facility, and the plane, God forbid, goes down, then we keep functioning. So, but you need to have that, and they didn't. So it became an estate battle, and that's more than anything, I think, what shut them down.
It probably going to keep them shut down.
As BW, yes. I have heard some rumors that Janny is doing some things with the stuff that she was working on over in China. So, there may be an evolution there, but I don't know. And I mean, again, they're sort of a competitor, so that's not something that I really have any right to talk about.
It's in the US, Jeff.
What is?
Aqua. It's Aqua.
Oh, okay, there you go. See, so I knew somebody would know.
I'll make a comment too. It's not just big stuff like the supply chain issues. It's headsets, it's microphones. It's not just big items.
Yeah, and that is important. It's like one of the things I do as part of a maintenance session. I tell people, I said, basically the day you buy something, you should be planning the life cycle of it and figuring out when you need to start budgeting for the replacement. And knowing the lead times on all these things, even if it changes a lot, at least get yourself a ballpark.
That should be
know,
one of our programs sometime next year.
how to plan life cycle replacement.
Yes,
That'd be
sir.
an interesting one, because from the mic to the antenna, you're going to have a lot of different opinions and requirements. So yeah, that'd be a cool one. I mean, transmitter wise, I can tell you I budget 15 to 20 years. Engineering says it should be 10 to 15. I'm a little more realistic. I see too many 40-year-old transmitters still in active duty to believe that anybody's going to go with that. But there you have it. So absolutely, it's something we've got to start planning for more than we ever did before.
But Brian,
And
as long as you're with us,
nowadays,
as long as you're with us, Brian, how are things at Telos? Axia?
Yeah, I don't think they're too different than what Jeff is saying, right? I mean, we heard the same thing, right? I probably should not be speaking solely for the company, so I'll just temper this with that please don't consider what I'm saying to be
Gospel.
official Telos gospel. But what Jeff said is not too different, right? We heard that, by the end of 2022, things should be getting better. And I would say better is probably where we are. Good, probably not yet.
Yep.
Right? We had, the AKM thing, in addition to the whole pandemic. Even when AKM came back, there were a number of products that they just said, yeah, we're going to rebuild, but we're not going to produce these products anymore.
Right.
So now you're in a position where you've got to redesign a product not because it met end of life. It did. It was just an untimely demise. So you've got that additional redesign component that then further delays the ability to be able to delay those products. Luckily the AKM stuff didn't, same thing as Nautel did. We have plenty of stock of AKM chips. So we do have time to redesign. But then when you factor that in with all of the other, the other component designs, and even the places that build boards, we don't build everything in the US. I wish we could, but some boards we have manufactured in China. They do a great job. It's a little sad, and this is probably too general of a statement, but the stuff that's built in China, the quality is very good. We have fewer discrepancies than we do with some of the US built stuff, but they don't want to sell us parts. They're going to, just like Jeff said, right? You've either got General Motors looking for chips or you've got Nautel looking for chips. Well, you've got these board houses that are buying millions and millions of dollars worth of chips. They're buying those to build products. They don't want to sell us parts.
Yep.
So we can't get the parts because the people that are building the boards for us are buying up the parts. Well, sometimes we don't need whole boards. We need parts to repair other things. It's just it's a disaster is what it is. That's the best that can be said.
It's an interesting challenge.
But I would say it's getting better. And I agree with what Jeff said, that some people might tell you differently, but I think we're 2 years more before we're completely back to what would be considered normal.
I'd make the argument that a lot of what's getting better isn't so much that the supply chain is improving. It's that we've learned how to work around the challenges a little better.
Yep.
So yeah, the overall scenario is improving, but that's
I think there's going to be ripples in the supply chain for a long, long time.
Yep.
I've got a friend that is works for a company that has kind of got a lock. Well, because they developed it, but has got a lock on a certain kind of chipset, and people want to incorporate those chipsets in their new designs. Mm-hmm. And he spent some not unreasonable, not minimal amount of time unsoldering parts from boards to give to people to develop products. I mean, the supply line is long, but now you've got that impacting the development cycle. So, the whole thing is getting stretched out.
Yeah. And I mean, you throw onto that, I've got a supply chain presentation. I'm just going to throw up a slide or two from that if I can. If you've seen them before, somebody interrupt me and just tell me don't. Unless, of course, Barry doesn't want me sharing anything.
No, it's open for you.
All right, there we go. Let's see, that is screen 2 and share. So this is where we were as of, well, about a year and a half ago. And by the way, the picture is the Nautel looking down from Google Earth. The burn mark is where our wave soldering station caught fire probably 15, 20 years ago. So, you know, nobody's immune from a fire in this stuff. But AKM was only really the tip of the iceberg. Renesas impacted us probably more than anybody. They make rectifiers. Nitobo make the substrates, the actual raw material that the circuit boards are made from. And they're one of the world's largest suppliers of those. So, you know, it was just a sort of 1, 2, 3 punch, bang, bang, bang. And I mean, it was over a year, but this industry doesn't move fast. One of the advantages we're seeing is that some of the bigger companies are starting to look at making their own chips. And I mean, I'm sure you all know different states there are IC companies being built now. So, but that stuff doesn't turn around on a dime either. So like Bill said, this is not going to be immediately resolved. It's going to, the impact's going to be with us for a little while yet. And you see here that like a year and a half ago, yeah, the shortage will drag on till late 2022. What month is this? What year is this? Yeah, it's going to come with us for a little longer. So that's what we're looking at for lead times as of about 6 months ago. And I haven't updated it recently, but it hasn't changed significantly in the past several months. So yeah, across the board, a year to a year and a half for a lot of these parts. And I mean, we're not talking little things either. Like Vishay is capacitors, ST Micro is semiconductors, Renesas, like I said, rectifiers. ON Semiconductor is power amps and ICs. NXP, of course, everybody knows. So, you know, it's everything. And yeah, when you're building stuff, it gets to be an interesting challenge. But I mean, it's not just the new stuff. I mean, how long does it take you to get a new tube built these days? There's not as much stock. What's a rebuild? If you don't have a dud in the library already, then you're going to be waiting for a bit, correct? That's a question. I don't know. I'm not a tube guy.
They're having you send the dud back in to rebuild it because they don't have duds on certain tubes. It just depends on the model.
Right. And I mean, that's one of those things that, you know, there's not much you can do about it. It is what it is. But yeah, we're not going to see this get better anytime soon. So it is something that we deal with continuously. So that's kind of the doom and gloom. Like Brian says, it's improving either because we're learning how to work with it or because some of the parts are actually freeing up and becoming available again. Some will become available, other ones will go away. So it's interesting times.
Let me ask the question this way. One of the things that has popped up from time to time is that some of the power supplies in your transmitters have failed and you can't get them anymore. What about their replacements?
So the older ones, like the original CUIs, can't get those. We have got a JIG and an ABB replacement, which is the current one that most of us are using these days. And yeah, we can get those. Every now and again, there'll be a glitch in the supply chain, and it'll take us, you know, November. We didn't ship a lot of VS in November because we were rationing supplies. We got, I think, a couple of thousand coming in next week. So it varies. But yeah, like I said, it's cyclical. There will be things that you can get this month that you can't get next month or couldn't get last month.
That's what I thought, but I just want to give you a chance to mention that for anyone that might have that issue.
Right. Now, the other thing to think about, and this is something that I know we're not alone in quoting it this way, but if I quote you a transmitter, if you ask for lead time, I'll tell you from the day you order it till the day we ship it. What I won't tell you, because I don't know, is how long it'll take to get to you. And that these days used to be, as an example, I could ship from, let's see, one of my first sales in 2007 was Iowa, and got to Ames, Iowa from Halifax, Nova Scotia in 7 days and a couple hours. Shipped something to Iowa a couple of months ago, and it took 4.5 weeks to make the exact same trip. So that's something else to be aware of. The trucking time, the trucking industry, they can't find people to drive. Our freight forwarder says that they need 18% more drivers than they have. And I mean, they've got it down to the number. They know exactly how many they're trying to hire. They just can't find them.
And now there might be a railroad strike.
Yep. Or, well, and I mean, railroad strike, that's the incidental stuff that we always have dealt with, like trying to park a ship sideways in the Suez Canal and little details like that. Harbor strike in LA. So those are the kind of things we've always had to deal with. It's just when you throw it into labor shortages and component shortages, it just kind of creates that perfect storm, if you will. So yeah, it makes some interesting challenges. It's, again, not all doom and gloom. I mean, we're still getting stuff out the door. I shipped, let's see, just based on my commission check, we shipped more last month in my territory than I've shipped in my territory in 15 years. So the stuff is going out there. But
One of the
yeah.
things, mentioning the shipping that we don't see right now, but about a year ago, it was on every newscast every hour where they were breaking into the cars coming out of the LA port. And they were stealing hundreds of boxes every day. We haven't heard anything since then. I don't know if it's changed any or not, but it's
well, and I suspect, like with supply chain, after a while it stops being news and just starts being a way of life.
Yeah, be an impediment and factor in.
Yep. And there's a couple of comments in chat too about the railroad strike, and again, that like I said, that's one of those things that is just, I won't say part of doing business, but it's one of those situations that we've always dealt with over the years. So that's, to me, a little less of a concern, although certainly it does have an impact.
But we're not expecting to see Jeff pull up to the station with a rental van
with a transmitter in the back. No. I made the joke. I said because of course with fuel prices going all over the map like they've been, and labor shortages, of course, capitalism says when demand is high, prices go up. But so I made the joke that I could have rented a U-Haul and delivered a transmitter, the one to Iowa myself, for about half the price. But that doesn't factor in actually having to pay health insurance and, actually give employees a livable wage or things like that. So yeah, no, you're not going to see me going into the delivery business anytime soon. That just sounds like a terribly thankless job.
Make a bucket brigade, just give you the transmitter to the nearest station and then have that station put its engineer in a truck and take it to the next station.
That could almost be kind of fun in a lot of ways. We'd all get to see a lot of places and do some more stuff. But yeah,
meet some friends.
And I mean, the good thing, like with the VX, I mean, now we're doing 6 kilowatts in something that we can ship in a UPS carton, so that's pretty good. I mean, I've noticed my 2-day Amazon shipments are typically a week or so now, but on a factor of a week to a month versus a couple of days to a week, that's still pretty good.
All depends. I mean, I had a shipment from Amazon this week that came a day earlier than they predicted. So it all depends on what's in the warehouse where.
Yeah, David makes a good point. If we're handing it off from engineer to engineer like that, it'd arrive with a whole bunch of forklift holes instead of just one set. It'd be the new Swiss cheese look. We could paint them orange.
Ooh.
I'm not sure that would be a selling point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so shipping lead times, I say that's the doom and gloom. It's sort of become a way of life. So it is what it is, but it does mean that we want to plan for it. And like Brian said, don't wait till the last 3 weeks. The challenge, and this is the drum I've been beating, because that means that more than ever before, we don't have as much ability to deal with emergencies. So if something has been neglected and fails due to lack of maintenance, you're going to be off the air for a while. And so more than ever before, the need to test backups, to have backups, is probably critical in my mind, at least.
Well, you guys have caused a lot of stations to forsake auxiliary transmitters.
No. We have not caused that. We've argued against it. Because they don't break as much and people think they can get away with it. That's a whole different, but no, I mean, how many times have I beaten the drum on maintenance? We're in discussion right now because we just had a storm last night at my station, and power was out. And, we don't have a generator up there. The good thing is we're the unique exception in that the vast majority of our audience is stationary, either at home or at work. And they all know if the transmitter goes down, they can flip to the web stream. Most people prefer not to, but they've got the option. We'll see our web traffic spike by close to fivefold when the power goes out at the transmitter site. However, after this last one, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So now we're starting to look at getting the generator put in. We got the transfer switch. We just need something to plug into it. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't walk my own talk very well. But because like everybody else, I'll tell you what you should do. But when it comes to my own gear, I still had the same budget constraints that everybody else has. So dropping 10 grand on a new generator was not really an issue until we've just been seeing a lot more outages. Now, the funny thing is, and without telling too many tales out of school, we're on a leased power company site. But what do they say? The plumber's pipes get fixed last.
A friend of mine over in Halifax just bought a Generac, and he had to use it that last storm, and he says it was worth every cent.
Yep. I mean, I'm not necessarily a Generac fan, but it's like everything else. Any generator, regardless of the logo on the front, is going to be as good as the maintenance you do on it, and how often you test
if you don't need them a lot, they're pretty good for the money. If it's something you're going to run a lot, you probably want to spend more and get more.
Right, exactly. So, and I mean, that's something that y'all can coordinate better than I can by a long shot, because I am pretty tightly focused on what happens at the transmitter end of the STL. But, I mean, we have a generator at the studio so we can keep the web stream up, and that's cool. But we need to expand that a little bit.
I went so far as to have silence detection that went from the ISDN as a backup to the other STL as a backup, all the way down to a computer playing music at the transmitter site.
Yep, and we have done that as well. And we do it less because of a worry. Like I said, we got generator backup at the studio, so that's less a concern. But when, not if, a backhoe cuts the fiber, then at least we've got some source of audio, because we don't have the ability to run an air link from the studio to the site. Something about putting a center hop on the ridge in the middle of the Canadian version of forestry department.
Yeah, you just need something to put on the air plus IDs.
Yep.
Hey, Jeff, here is a question that is just turned up on the broadcast list. For those that aren't aware, I've been running a mailing list since 1985 for broadcasters. The broadcast list, Tech Assist, Tech Zone, and alternate frequency. Philip has this question that I think is pertinent to our discussion. He says AT&T is a tower 1,000 feet away, and says the eighth harmonic is landing on their 711 cellular. This is
LTE interference. Yeehaw.
Yeah, this is a Nautel 10 operating at 7.3 kilowatts. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if manufacturers actually spec the cabinets for harmonics. The building the FM is in is a metal garden shed type of building.
So, cabinet radiation is an interesting thing. The FCC does not technically have a specification for cabinet radiation, other than it's got to be 80 dB down. Basically, they're same as the harmonic radiation. Other countries, Canada and Europe included, have very specific cabinet radiations, based on dB microvolts per meter. And we do meet those, which means that right off the bat, we're going to be more stringent than the 80 dB requirement. But having said that, there are, and it depends what version of the transmitter it is. I mean, we made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different 10 kilowatt FM transmitters over the years. So depending on which one, there may be areas where I can say, okay, well, if you've got an older FM10, then it's probably coming out through the plastic meter movement, so you can build a hardware cloth cage around the back. If it's a newer one, there's a gap at the output connector. You can get some copper tape and run around it, things like that. So yeah, I'll jump on. I mean, I follow broadcast lists. I'll jump into that later. That I get that on a Gmail account that I look at when I'm not busy.
That's if the DKIM will work.
That's what?
That's if the DKIM entry in the DNS will work.
Oh yeah.
We're having trouble right now, as I say, and I've got to find the solution to it.
It's interesting on cabinet radiation. It almost seems as though that's being an unintentional radiator, and maybe the Part 15 rules would come in there.
They do not legally, because the transmitter itself is a very intentional radiator. So yeah, the Part 73 or 74, if it's a translator, supersedes 15 in that case.
But some of the phone companies want to go down to a minus.
Oh, they go
20.
down that road every single time. The form letter that AT&T uses specifies Part 15.
I've found that a lot of the cellular complaints can be traced back to passive intermodulation.
Yep.
Especially if this place is in a rusty building, like you said.
So out of the 50 or so interference complaints that I've dealt with firsthand, 2 of them have been cabinet radiation. The other 48 have been half and half. Either their receiver's been overdriven by the fundamental and creating the harmonic internally, or it's been something re-radiating at or near the site, whether a loose ground wire on a ground kit on the coax. Had one where it was a power supply and a neon sign 2 miles away, re-radiating the harmonic. So not re-radiating, generating the harmonic based off the fundamental. So yeah, it becomes a really cool fox hunt if you're into ham at all. And even if you're not, I mean, you can grab like a 900 meg Yagi little circuit board printed wiring board with the dipoles on it. You can grab them on eBay for 20, 30 bucks, plug it into a spectrum analyzer and just wave it around, because you don't care what the absolute signal is. You're just looking for a relative. Oh, it's higher here. Oh, it's lower there. And go up, aim it up at the tower, aim it down, aim it everywhere. The other challenge we run into a lot, sorry, I just stepped on somebody, but the other challenge we run into a lot is that a lot of the cell techs don't know how to run their own equipment. So they come in with a site master without a clue that when you're stepping out of microvolts into microwatts into kilowatts, you need to attenuate the fundamental. So they'll overdrive the front end of their receiver and have a fully erroneous reading without any idea that they're not looking at anything makes sense.
I was just going to comment about something we ran into when we were proofing that site out there, looking for places to do the NRSC. One of the locations, there were so many birdies and harmonics and whatever, and then we realized it was about, I don't know, maybe half a mile from an auto wrecking yard that was right in the main bore of the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a gazillion diodes in that wrecking yard, all producing interesting byproducts.
Yep. And the cool thing about cabinet radiation, I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. And if I can, I'll share it up on the screen just so you've got the reference. But this is not a new thing. And I mean, there has been tons and tons and tons of documentation created on it. There's the, okay, so this goes back to, let me get back over here again. It's the problem. See, I have too many things on the go and not enough brain cells to do it all. Screen 2. So this is an article off the, if you go to our website and click on support, and then under technical resources, click on tips and tricks, and you'll see all the articles that I write for our Waves newsletter. And if you scroll down those, you'll see one called Can You Hear Me Now about LTE interference? And that was written in November 2016. And fortunately, I got Scott Shannon to give me some input on it. He's a consultant out of Nashville. Joe Garziglia did a lot of the legal commentary in it. So, you know, again, this is definitely not a new thing. Sorry, I was talking. I thought I had shared the screen. I forgot to hit the actual button. Makes a difference if you do that.
The BDR also has several articles from Gary Cavell.
Yep. Yep.
Topic.
And I know that Cavell and Mertz, and I think Hatfield and Dawson both have LTE interference. And I say Scott Baxter used to have quite a bit on his website. I'm not sure how much of that is subscription based, but certainly there's a lot of stuff out there. Yeah, and I say this one goes back 6 years, so it let's say it was one of the lengthier ones. That's and coincidentally that's an FM10 right there that was having a situation in Michigan, and Walker Sisson did a lot of work on that, and he's gone now, but the legacy lives on. So definitely it is going to be a concern. It's going to be a bigger concern. And when you get right down to it, part of the reasoning is purely political and financial. The cell companies are trying to pull a signal 120 dB down. And I mean, then they're trying to measure it on a SiteMaster, which has got a noise floor of 95 dB down without attenuation, and present it to you as gospel. So like I said, you want, I tell folks the first thing you do, number one, don't ever volunteer to turn off your transmitter to see if the problem goes away. Because of course the problem will go away, even if it's being re-radiated or generated in their equipment. Once you take away the fundamental, the problem clears up. And at that point, you've basically created a level of implied guilt, even if there isn't any. So don't ever volunteer to shut it off until you don't have the option.
One of the things that I found interesting is, remember, the rules say you got a -80 is what you have to meet. And
right.
The flip side of it is all the times that we were working on program lines, and you'd sit there and you couldn't meet even the 70 for your air signal, and you'd call the phone company, and the phone company said, well, it looks good coming from here. Well, you can't possibly be meeting the specs because the FCC requires us to do this. So show us what you're doing. Oh, we can't do that. That's a secret. And they would never tell you what the rules really said. I mean, you could do research, but the phone companies fought that tooth and nail. And I think in some ways this is a nice turnaround when they're trying to play this extra 40 dB of signal, and you say, no, well, we've got the 80 and we're not going to tell you anymore.
Of course, this is the world's biggest Ponzi scheme we're talking about, right? So they've already got all the spectrum there is, and if you plot the increase in use of the internet over time, and you say we're gonna support that on cellular, then I don't know, the last guy who invests in cellular and there is no more spectrum, the whole thing collapses. They're just squeezing stuff out of the noise, and I mean it's a problem for airlines because they've done that. It's a problem for GPS. It's a problem for they've taken away half the C-band satellite spectrum, all the white space. There's just no more spectrum left.
Right, and part of the challenge is again logistical. When you're building a nationwide facility or coverage area, if you can put those sites a couple of 100 feet further apart, over the course of the entire country, you're going to save several dozen sites at a course of, several hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. So I get what they're trying to do, but the fact remains that physics will not be denied. The noise floor isn't going to change. So yeah, it's an interesting challenge.
It seems though that with frequency reuse and putting the sites closer and closer together, that you could pretty much, have infinite capacity in the bandwidth. We just have to have a cell site outside everybody's house.
And then that becomes the logistics of who pays for that cell site, because you're putting a cell site outside my house and telling me that my cell bill will have to cover the cost of it. I know what that's a big chunk of change coming out of your cell phone bill.
Unless you're the lessee.
Yeah,
Or
well,
lessor.
there's that.
Well,
There
that's
you go. I'll lease them the space for the free cell service. So I don't think there's a business model there either for them.
that's the version 5 microcellular, where they have actually got federal legislation in place that says for cities over, I don't know, what is it, like 5,000 or something like that, or 10,000 maybe, all the city planning or county planning or whoever else that used to put restrictions on cellular installations, they're preempted. And so any pointy thing around any neighborhood anywhere in the United States is fair game for them.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, I can jump in here just a second. I've spent a lot of time on both sides of the fence on this issue. The zoning issue is a real driver in terms of consolidation of sites.
Yep.
Whether it be cellular or broadcast or whatever. And it all boils down to people don't like the looks of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to do everything they can possibly do and come up with every rationale you've ever heard in your life to justify consolidation of sites.
Right.
Back when RF was doomed to be hazardous to health, I spent 2 years on the King County, which is Seattle, Tower Task Force, working as an industry representative, and it was an eye-opener. So there's things out there that unless you really dig into that kind of situation, you think of it from a pure technical standpoint, you're missing the boat.
Yeah. And that is, it's like I said, politically, logistically, there's a lot of argument for putting the sites as few and far between. And I call that, a lot of people say the NIMBY, not in my backyard. I call it banana, build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone. Yeah.
Now it's nope.
Nope.
Nowhere on the planet Earth.
So yeah, it's, I see why they're doing it the way they're doing it. I can empathize with that, but it doesn't change the physics that you need to have a certain level of signal or you're going to be prone to interference. And then the problem becomes who's got the biggest lawyers, because there's a right to use argument that's totally outside of the FCC's jurisdiction.
There's a lot of money to be made out of fear.
There's a lot of money to be made out of almost anything if you do it right, but yep, that can be marketed.
Well, fear is the biggest tool in anybody's toolbox. Just ask a politician.
Yeah, I mean, in sales, they always tell us look for the pain point, and what's causing the pain, and fear is always a big pain point. So, yep, fear of being off air or the cost of being on, you can tie all that stuff. Mary's sitting there going, "Oh, another Sandler trainee." All right, what else we got, folks? I mean, I'm having a little too much fun with this stuff.
I'll throw you one. What is the MERV requirement for air filters for a GV?
8.
Well, there was no delay there at all.
I knew that answer. Yeah, no, we use MERV 8 for everything now. Now, I have done I did one custom job where we did a positive pressure plenum with a MERV 11 filter because we were in an elevator shaft with oil particulate. The elevator shaft is graphite, but there was a compressor there, so we had oil, which made for greasy conductive stuff. And so in that case, we put a MERV 11 filter with a high volume fan on a plenum. But yeah, MERV 8 is the standard for the transmitters all the way across.
One of your favorite examples is a system that I built many years ago, Jeff.
Yep, the KBSG one.
Yeah, for the AMFET 50, sitting right next to a freeway. For those of you who haven't heard the story on this one, I had a 5500 CFM fan blowing through a bank of pleated air filters, blowing air into the backside of the transmitter. It was all sealed up. So you could turn off all the muffin fans and they're still spinning happily. It gives you an idea. It was very positive pressure. But there's blow-by around the doors. And the transmitter room, are you guys ready for this? Had a carpeted floor. And I know it's an exception rather than the rule. But anyway, I noticed started getting black marks on the carpeting. And what it was carbons from vehicle exhaust due to the adjacent freeway being sucked through the transmitter and blown out the other side. And so, Jeff, I want you to know I just replaced that bank of 10 24 by 24 by 12 MERV 14 filters just the other day. They'll run about 5 years before the manometer says tilt. And the transmitter is absolutely pristine clear and is amazingly reliable.
I remember that because you were originally using FAR 2020s in that, weren't you?
Yeah, right. I was. Yeah, the FAR 2020s. Boy, you got a great memory.
That's only 25 years ago. I told somebody, I said, I work a window. I said, you've got 5 minutes and 5 years. If it's outside of that time frame, you're good to go. I'll remember it. Anywhere between the two, nope, not going to happen. Write it down.
Okay, I'm going to share with you guys all something here because I'm looking around at a bunch of, should I say, older friends. My wife hit me with one of the most priceless lines ever, when she said, "What's wrong, honey? Didn't it happen long enough ago for you to remember it?"
Yep. Yeah, my wife's she says, this is why I send you all these Google appointments, because she goes, I've given up on trying to tell you anything. I'm not sure that's a good sign or a bad sign, but the plus side is I get to meet her every morning all over again.
Well, we've had someone suggest to the fellow to turn his transmitter off and see if the interference goes away.
Yeah, see, and just don't. So the first thing on an LTE interference complaint, the first thing I recommend you do is get a consultant in, Cavell Mertz or Hatfield Dawson or anyone, a half a dozen others across the country. Get them in to do a proper proof to verify that your radiation, your harmonics are all within spec. Get them to sign it and stamp it, and that becomes Exhibit A. And then you can go to the cell company and say, look, we just had the consultant in. We verified that we're legal. We understand you're trying to challenge the laws of physics here. We're willing to work with you, but you're going to have to foot the bill on this. And let us know what we can do to help. And yeah, because there's a lot of times that copper tape, and now the trick to copper tape, there's two kinds of copper tape. Some of it's got a conductive adhesive and some of it does not, and that matters. But if you get some copper tape and run it around any open slot, then a lot of times you can reduce it by enough. It's almost never, like I said, it's almost never an issue of radiated seventh harmonic. It's almost always a case of something re-radiating or their equipment being overdriven by the fundamental. But in the rare event that it is cabinet radiation, there's usually stuff we can do to help mitigate that. So yeah, definitely I'll reach out on the list and take a look at it.
Jeff, we know we've hit an hour here, and you generally find yourself trying to get end of day work done at this point.
Yup.
So, nope.
No. Yep.
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay. So
yeah, I'm going to disappear shortly. I got reminded during this meeting of one that I have been lax in responding to as well. So
let me post this question then, and I'm sure
Mhm.
you're going to say wait till April. Is there anything in 2023 that you want to give us a hint about that might be coming down the pipeline from Nautel?
For the first time in a long time, I've got some level of confidence that new AUI will be an actual thing by then,
Well, good.
by some point in 2023. And again, having the VX out as a beta and actually seeing the new AUI, because I was running it on air right up till a week ago, and the AUI worked flawlessly. So yeah, it's finally, oh my God, finally, 5 years later, it looks like it might be a thing. So that's my big news for 23. Beyond that, nothing that I'm going to commit to until April. Nope.
All right. Well, I had to ask.
I've got a new GV15 arriving. I just found out today on shipping on March 17th. So I'm yeah, brand new. And do you think that new transmitter is going to have the new fancy looking display?
AUI March, I would guess probably not.
Geez.
I think you'll be a month or two away from it by then, but I know we want to get the VX done first because it's already to ship. VS is next because we got a lot of them out there and we've been dangling those folks for way too long already. And I don't know if Bill's still here, but I'm sure he'd be nodding his head. And then the GV is next in line after that. And we will want to beta test it first because we're not just going to ship 5,000 customers new software and hope like hell it works. So, just because they were able to make it work in the lab doesn't necessarily mean that it'll work as well when y'all start doing the stuff you do with them in the field.
You mean you're not aligned with Microsoft?
No, not that way. Yeah, ship it now. We'll ship the patch next week. Now we try to avoid doing that, and I mean this is dangled on so long that it's even got a higher bar of, I guess, criticality, if that's a word. But the goalposts are set a lot higher on this one because after making y'all wait so long, it better be damn good.
We did a thing with equipment for movie theaters where the network operations center could do an auto update of the stuff in the field, and our script would stop on the first failure, so we didn't end up with 10,000 dead screens if the update went badly.
Yep. And so that's one of them. I mean, and we do IT security discussions, and we did one in the TTT Tuesday this week. And Shane Tobin had suggested pushing updates, and I said we probably will never do that. And there are several reasons why not to. But yeah, it's an interesting challenge because with software, sooner or later, we're probably going to end up in a situation where it does have to go that way. Because I've discovered that y'all don't necessarily like to do updates. I've seen some stuff out there still running version 1, and Barry and I never did find the picture, but I said that goes back to the hardware days. I walked into a site in Western Canada one day where there was this nice little cardboard box sitting to the right of the transmitter, and there was a collection of Ziploc bags in there, and you look in the Ziploc bag and it's every field mod we had ever shipped them. Not installed, just sitting in a box beside the transmitter. And I'm not sure if they thought they were just going to work through proximity or what, but and that was back in the days when the bag would have, a couple of components and a sheet of paper that said cut this track here, replace this component with this component, put this component between this point and that point. So yep, no, there were, I would guess, probably 20 field mods in that kit or in that box. So yep, pushing software is there's an argument for it, and there's an equally big argument against it. So.
You knew that the word update, according to Merriam-Webster, was invented in Redmond, Washington?
I can't imagine. Wonder who came up with that.
I don't know.
All right, folks, on that note, I do have to disappear, but appreciate your time again today.
Jeff, I'll just show you this before you go. It's a new toy that I just got here. It's called a UV seed, and it fits on the back of your cell phone.
Uh-huh.
It's a UV sanitizer. So you can walk in and come up to a microphone in the studio, or you can go to the console or wherever you need to go, and 99.9% sanitize in seconds.
Sweet. Now, of course, I'm that guy that the first thing I'd want to do would be spill something somewhere and then run that over it and then get a black light out and just see exactly how much it did, because I'm curious like that. But no, that's cool. I mean, that's one of those neat little toys, and I just picked up a new FLIR for the iToys, so I've got a new infrared camera for my cell phone too.
Ah, okay. Well, that's
All right.
another thing we got to revisit next year too.
Mm-hmm.
Is, heat
Yep. That's
on the system.
more and more. That's again one of those things that we need to pay attention to, because goodness knows, if we cook it, you're not getting a new one as fast as you used to.
Well,
All right.
thanks again, Jeff. As I said earlier, proud to call you friend.
My pleasure, Barry. And it's the same goes mutual. We'll talk to you all later. If I don't talk to anybody before, have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, whatever applies.
See you next year.
Be well, Jeff.